The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Baisley, Bridges, Buckner,
Excused.
Coleman, Cutter, Danielson, Exum, Fields, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Hendrickson, Hawkins Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Liston, Lundin, Marchman,
Excused.
Michelson Janae, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Priola, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson,
Excused.
Smallwood, Sullivan, Van Winkle, Will, Winter, Zenzinger, Mr. President.
Here. Morning roll call is 32 present, 0 absent, 3 excused. We do have a quorum. Senator Exum, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge. I
Approval of the journal. Senator Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal for March 25th, 2024 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no? No! The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Will the clerk please add Senator Marchman to the roll? Senate Services.
March 26, correctly printed Senate Bills 189, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 172, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 81, correctly revised Senate Bills 10, House Bill 1058, 1072, 1098, 1100, 1102, 1104, 1241, 1267, correctly re-revised House Bill 1033, 1056, 1062, 1081, correctly enrolled Senate Bills 74 and 10.
Committee reports.
March 25th, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1225 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Recommendation replaced in the consent calendar. HCR 241002 be referred to Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1248 be referred to Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1136 be referred favorably to Committee on Appropriations. House Bill 1039 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order to take up a moment of personal privilege.
The motion is for the Senate to proceed out of order for moments of personal privilege. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? The ayes have it, and the Senate will proceed out of order. Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, members, and thank you for taking a moment today we are honoring Denver's first policewoman, Sadie Likens, and recognizing women in Colorado law enforcement for Women's History Month of 2024. We have a tribute this morning for Sadie Likens, and you'll learn in the tribute that she was a very special woman. Denver, 1988, Sadie Likens of Ohio found herself a single mother, her husband of 19 years having left her, and to support herself became a matron for the Women's Christian Temperance Union. In late 1888, she became Denver Jail's first female matron, assigned to female prisoners, attending to their medical and spiritual needs. Police officials soon wondered how they'd managed without a matron. Sadie Likens demonstrated her potential to effect change, opening up government positions to women in Colorado. But the matron position was not immune to politics, and she was dismissed by the populist. She later became the superintendent of the State Home and Industrial School for Girls, working at many charitable agencies, including the Florence Crittenton School. A Civil War widow, she served many Civil War veterans and did relief work during the Spanish-American War and World War I. Sadie Likens' long and illustrious life of public service ended July 30th, 1920, as she succumbed to illness at her daughter's home on Cherry Street here in Denver. Her service was the beginning of contributions of many women to the Denver Police Department and law enforcement here in Denver and in Colorado, some of which my co-recognizer, if you will provide to you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the good senator from Colorado Springs for allowing me to join him as we recognize the contributions of women in law enforcement in Colorado, and particularly here in Denver. I do want to say and acknowledge that, this year, as the Denver Police Department is celebrating its 165th anniversary this year, that there are so many women who are here joining us this morning in the gallery, and we're here to honor and recognize Ms. Sadie Likens, the first police woman, the first police matron for the Denver Police Department. Look, for women who are doing this work, we know how it can feel sometimes to be the first, to be the only, and to acknowledge that initially that there were some male officers who groused at Ms. Likens' initial appointment, but she was so effective at doing this work. And several women followed Ms. Likens during the early part of the 20th century in her role. As we've seen over the past century, the shift in the role of women in American society, we've seen other groundbreakers. Doris Shelley became the first Denver policewoman detective in the 1960s. And Marcia Kiddo was the first Denver policewoman who was assigned directly to Denver streets. And it's both today, hopefully, an acknowledgement of our history and also our future. And today we have a number of retired Denver policewomen in the gallery who have also followed in the footsteps of Ms. Marcia Kiddo and accepted that assignment. And so I'd like to invite them to stand and be recognized here today. Some folks are here in the gallery, and then some folks are standing up along the Senate chamber as well. Thank you.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Mr. President. We have some special guests this morning here to honor Sadie Likens and women in Colorado and Denver law enforcement. I'll recognize our guests this morning if they'll stand and be recognized. We have Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas and members of the DPD command staff. Thank you all for being here. Very special guests, the family members of Sadie Likens, including Quentin and Ginger Young. Quentin is Sadie's great-grandson. He and Ginger have traveled here from Indiana this morning. Anna and Dave Steenbach, also family that live in Morrison. And all the active and retired Denver and Colorado law enforcement women. And Paula Sarles, who is the former national president of Women Marine Association and Colorado president of the USMC Memorial Foundation. Please welcome all of our guests. We have thank you all. We have a flag for the family that was flown over the Colorado State Capitol in recognition of Sadie Likens' service to the citizens of the state of Colorado. And we will present that if Mr. President will grant us a brief recess to greet our guest and to present the flag.
Thank you, members. Both Senator Gardner and Senator Gonzalez will be fined $5 for introducing members of the gallery. However, in honor of Sadie Likens, that fine will be waived. The Senate will stand in a brief recess.
Sadie.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the
The Senate will come back to order. Third reading of bills. Consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the titles of all of the bills on the consent calendar?
Senate Bill 172 by Senator Pelton B. and Representative McLaughlin concerning changing the phrase industrial hemp product to the phrase hemp product in the statutes that regulate marijuana. House Bill 1104 by Representative Snyder and Armagost and Senator Exum. Representative Snyder and Armagost, Senator Exum, concerning protection for firefighters' personal information from publication on the internet. House Bill 1072 by Representatives Byrd and Frizzell and Senators Kirkmeyer and Fields concerning increased evidentiary requirements in criminal proceedings for protection of victims of sexual assaults. House Bill 1100 by Representative Vigil and Senators Hawkins Lewis concerning a requirement that a coroner be certified by the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators or the American Board of Pathology and Forensic Pathology.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on third reading of bills, final passage consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 172, House Bill 1104, House Bill 1072, and House Bill 1100.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills? Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I wish to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100.
See no discussion. The motion is the passage of all of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes? Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100.
Senator Zenzinger will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. Senator Liston, do you have something to request?
Thank you. After that long discussion, Mr. President, just in case, I wish to be recorded as a no vote on 1100.
I knew it. Senator Liston will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. Senator Van Winkle.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to also be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100.
Senator Van Winkle will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100, please.
Senator Baisley will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100.
Senator Smallwood will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100.
Senator Roberts will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make some comments without passed. That time has passed. I would like to be recorded. Please record me as a no vote on House Bill 1100.
The Minority Leader will be recorded as a no vote on House Bill 1100. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, Senate Bill 172 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Janal, Cutter, Fields, Priola. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1104 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Bridges, Zenzinger, Janal, Michelson Janae, Cutter, Jaquez Lewis, Sullivan, Marchman, Priola, Gonzalez, Coleman, Mullica, Roberts, Hanson. With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, House Bill 1072 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Janal, Marchman, Zenzinger, Winter, Majority Leader Rodriguez. Priola. Cutter. Jaquez Lewis. Michelson Janae. Gardner. Smallwood. Colker. Bridges. Exum. Mullica. Liston. Pelton B. Pelton R. Roberts. Will. Please add the president. With a vote of 26 ayes, 7 noes, 0 absent, to excuse, House Bill 1100 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Winter, Priola. Gonzalez. Please add Senator Bridges as a co-sponsor on House Bill 1100. Third reading of bills. Final passage. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1098?
House Bill 1098 by Representative Mabry and Duran and Senators Gonzalez and Hendrickson concerning protections for residential tenants and in connection therewith requiring cause for the eviction of a residential tenant.
Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, thank you for your attention during the spirited debate on this bill yesterday. I believe that this bill will continue to offer the protections that are necessary when there is a problematic tenant that a landlord needs to remove from their properties. But today, there are lacking protections for tenants. And so if you are a tenant and you're in a situation where your home is unsafe, especially at the lower end of the income spectrum, you have a choice. Do you be the squeaky wheel that you hope gets the oil? Or do you be silent knowing that at the end of your lease, if you assert yourself and the rights provided to you ostensibly by law too loudly, that you'll lose your home for asserting what is your right? If you have a neighbor that is causing a problem for you, do you bring that issue up with them? Do you bring that issue up with your landlord? Or do you just stay silent because you don't want to be the troublemaker that asserts their rights, because that might mean that at the end of the lease, you lose your home? That is the heart of this bill, and that is why we brought this bill forward to you. I thank you for your attention to the spirited debate, and I ask for your aye vote on the passage of 1098. And, Mr. President, I move 1098 on third reading and final passage.
We also have an amendment.
I'll go grab that. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Senator.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Good morning, colleagues. We did have spirited debate about this, and candidly, I'm still disappointed. I think the people of Colorado should be disappointed that I wasn't able to get basic answers to a basic question on seconds. And it's not like we didn't try. I mean, what did we give it? Four go-arounds, if that's a word. Senator Sonnenberg would be proud of me. But the concern I have around House Bill 1098 is the same concern that I've expressed to you about many of the bills that we've seen and will see this session as it relates to the landlord-tenant relationship, in that I thought, maybe naively, is that this session we were going to work as a body on affordability of particularly properties for rent in our state. I'm pretty sure that I heard many of you talk about the fact that this was going to be a priority. And so what we could be doing as a body is presenting a package of bills that maybe not in some massive sweep comes through and helps with affordability, but a package of bills, theoretically, that each one slowly works to increase the supply of for-rent properties and helps bring the costs down. That's what I would have hoped. Instead, we are seeing the polar opposite. A package of bills that, again, I'm not arguing that they bring some good to some people. I'm not arguing that. But they move in the opposite direction of creating supply and affordability. What House Bill 98 does, in my opinion, inarguably adds a new layer of risk to landlords, risk that they didn't have before. And I've been probably way too transparent in explaining my own personal opinion about this. I was this landlord at one point in time. This wasn't a conceptual conversation I was trying to have with you. This was real life. Real life as a landlord being constantly, incessantly bothered, illogically, without merit, being bothered by a tenant. And in the past, before House Bill 1098, a landlord could comfortably, I think, say, if I'm being harassed, and I use that term loosely, right, because there's the legal description, which, by the way, I will never read on the microphone again. There's a legal description of harassment, and so we all know what that measuring stick is, right? So when I use the term harass, know that I'm not dealing with 18-9-111, okay? But I think we all get the point. We've all been harassed at some point in our lives, not to the level that exceeds what the senator from El Paso County has foolishly grasped. No. We've all been subject to that at some point in our life. And I will tell you from personal experience, when it happens when you're a landlord, it makes your life miserable. And before House Bill 1098, a landlord like me could have had the comfort in knowing, you know what, if I'm being treated that way, I am going to work to evict that tenant. Because I don't deserve this. You would have that comfort. With House Bill 1098 and all of the new provisions that are put in place, I lose that as a landlord. And that is an additional risk that a landlord now has to take. And and risks have consequences. When you apply additional risks to folks, people like me are going to take those properties off the market if they're sane. If they're sane, they're going to take those properties off the market. When they take those properties off the market, you are lowering supply. Economics 101 says when you're lowering supply, what are you doing with price? Increasing price. So here we are with a bill that has no choice based on the common law of economics other than to increase costs. Is it going to double cost? Is it going to triple cost? Is it going to quadruple cost? No. Even I won't be that hyperbolical on this. But incrementally, just like all the other pieces of legislation that we have heard and are going to hear, colleagues, it is moving the needle in the wrong direction. In my opinion, we should be doing whatever we can to increase the supply of for-rent properties. We should be lowering risk of wherever we can to landlords to encourage them to put more properties on the market, increasing supply and lowering costs. It's basic economics. And I cannot understand why in this environment, when rents are sky high, we're insisting on moving, again, incrementally, but in the wrong direction. We have to decide as a General Assembly at this moment in time, what is the most important thing we can do for our citizens? Is the most important thing we can do provide some additional protections for renters? Again, because I'm not arguing that this is going to do that. Is that the most important thing? Or is the most important thing in March of 2024 to do whatever we can within reason to try to lower rents for our citizens? I'm disappointed. First of all, I'm thrilled that one of the amendments we proposed got on, because I think it keeps our state very much aligned as far as the definition of a family member in our state and what a relative is in certain communities across our state. So I do want to commend the bill sponsors for being open to that. I really would have liked to have seen a modicum of protections for landlords so that folks like me won't do what I did do. What I did do, colleagues, again, it's not theoretical. What I did do is take yet another property off the market, a single-family home. That property's sold. It's not for rent anymore. It's not going to be for rent anymore. I don't think that's what you want. It's not really what I wanted, but bills like this continue to do that. So strongly ask for your no vote on House Bill 1098. Appreciate it, Mr. President.
Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, my issue lies in regards to the contract, and that when you have a contract, you have two parties to a contract. And in this case, you have the landlord and you have the tenant. And what we're doing is we are treating one party completely different than the other party, and that's really at the heart of where my issue is with this. I actually appreciate a lot of the protections that are being attempted in the bill. And I think there's no denying that the sponsors have put in a significant amount of work in this bill, and this bill is much different than the bill from last year. And so credit to the sponsors and to their stakeholders for doing that. But there is a level of disappointment that I have. During our debate yesterday, I think we had an opportunity to provide significant protections to the tenants and to address some of the issues that we heard from sponsors in regards to ensuring that we don't have retaliation for reporting warranty of habitability issues, increasing our fair housing laws, but still addressing making sure that we weren't going to require one party of a contract to stay in perpetuity in that contract without going through some significant steps to get out of that contract. And that's what's concerning to me, members. And, you know, I definitely appreciate the work that's been done on this bill, but I can't get there when we're treating one party so differently than the other party. And look, I want to be clear, too. I think that if the roles were reversed and we were seeing a bill before us today that was reversing this and that was requiring a tenant to stay in a unit in perpetuity, I would have the same concerns and be in the same position that I am right now. I do think that there is a balance that we can do in this building in regards to really improving protections for tenants, which I think we should be doing, while still ensuring that we're not requiring one party of a contract to stay in perpetuity. And so definitely appreciate the work that the sponsors have done, but I'm not going to be able to get there today because of the contract issue. Probably not tomorrow either if it's the same bill, but appreciate the work, and hopefully we continue to have conversations in this realm, and thank you.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to make summarized comments from the expanded debate we had yesterday on this bill. 3 simple points. I oppose 1098 because it debases our language. I oppose 1098 because it debases the rights that we all have, the actual negative rights as protected and enshrined by the United States Constitution. And I oppose 1098 because it will drive rents up. Debasing language. We're changing a normal contractual language where at the end of a contract is over, and we're now applying a semi-negative word. We're applying negative connotations to the end of a natural contract. The end of a contract is now going to be called a no-fault eviction. This is not an eviction. It's the end of a contract. We had an agreement that a property would be available under certain terms in a certain way at a certain price for a certain period of time. And that time has now elapsed. The contract is over. The rights return to where they were before. The owner of the property remains the owner of the property. The tenant, if the owner and the tenant determine that they want to renew, then they have that opportunity to renew. But if they don't, the tenant has the rights to find potentially a better place. This debases the rights of individuals. There are only 3 rights enshrined in our Constitution, in our great tradition: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are the rights guaranteed. We, the people, came together and said we will institute a government for one purpose only: the protection of those rights. Now, over time, increasingly, government has been used to take rights from individuals and give them to other people. I would argue that if it costs someone else something for you to get something, you did not have a right to that. It was coercively taken from the first individual. This bill has that effect, I believe. And the third point is this will drive rents up. Now, we entered into this legislative session with everybody in big, bold, beautiful language saying, Colorado is unaffordable. We will do everything we can possibly do to make Colorado more affordable for people. And yet comes 1098, yet one more bill that seeks to address a limited number of complaints, potential grievances, and will have the effect broadly of increasing the cost of rentable property, therefore making life yet again even less affordable for the people of Colorado. We crawl into a bubble here, and the longer the session goes, the deeper into the bubble we get. Have we lost sight of our commitment to the people of Colorado that we will do everything we can to make life more affordable in Colorado? If you vote yes on 1098, I argue it is more likely than not that you will be making affordability of life in Colorado less attainable for individuals and life more expensive for individuals in the most important element of all of our financial lives, the cost of housing, the cost of rent. So I return to my commitment on behalf of the people of Colorado to do what I can to make life more affordable in Colorado. And in this moment, I'll be casting a vote against 1098 because I think it makes life less affordable for the people of Colorado. Everybody okay back there? Oh, it was just a laptop, not a human being. That's good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I rise in favor of 1098. I'll tell you a couple reasons why. I have experience in leasing commercial and residential for many years. I have an uncle who owns a number of apartments, which I had him take a look at the draft. I thoroughly read through the draft, saw all the exceptions, so on and so forth. When it comes to leasing real estate, there are three things you really care about. Does the tenant pay the rent? Do they not trash the place? And are they being not a nuisance, if we will, with the other tenants and so on and so forth? This bill, as it currently exists, addresses all three of those concerns. So and given that point, if you really understand what the bill is about, it's not apparent. The bill is about landlords who decide they don't want certain people in their property anymore for a reason other than those three things. And the bill is about landlords using their influence to get benefit that is outside of what a normal lease should be. And that's why I support the bill, because it gives those protections to tenants, and I ask for an aye vote.
Will the clerk please add Senator Buckner to the roll? Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fundamentally, for me, this bill comes down to the Colorado value of fairness. And fairness is not always an easy place to find when you're looking at something that impacts two different groups of individuals. Fairness comes down to balance. And so what we're doing in this bill is moving the balance of power further away from landlords and further in the direction of tenants. That is what this bill does. And I think it's a more fair bill. I think the outcome we have is a more fair place to land. It does make it marginally more difficult on landlords, for sure. That's what we're doing in this bill. We are changing that balance of power because we think it's more fair where we end up at the end with this bill, and we are modifying how contracts work. We are. We are doing that in this bill. But we do that a lot. Businesses don't get to choose who it is that they do business with. If you have a grocery store, you can't tell people who walk in, you know, when you come in here, you ask me so many questions about the products on the shelves. I'd just rather, you're not a big part of our business, so why don't you just move along and maybe shop somewhere else? You don't get to do that. We in this country have decided that businesses don't get to discriminate without real cause. Now, if someone comes in and they trash your shelves and they try stealing things, yeah, you can say, no, that person doesn't get to do business here. All we're saying in this bill is that if you're a landlord, at the end of the day, you can choose who you offer that initial contract to, but if at the end of that contract you're like, you know, I just don't like it, you don't get to move those people along. Now, the reason it's such a long bill is because there are a lot of reasons in here. There's a lot of reasons that you can say, hey, I think for both of us, you know, you have disrespected the property, you've disrespected your neighbors. This is the end of our relationship contractually. And that takes a lot of description. That takes a lot of bill. That's why this bill is so long. I think that's fair, because there are reasons that that relationship should end, and they're outlined in this bill. And in future years, maybe we move that balance more in one direction or another. We change things as we go along. But at the end of the day, we don't tenants in this state don't have options. There's not a plethora of housing out there. That's part of what we're talking about here. And so moving that balance more in the direction of tenants is an appropriate thing to do, especially because finding another place to live right now in Colorado is extraordinarily difficult because we don't have housing. But let's say we do. Let's say we do. Let's say that there was just all of the housing anyone could possibly want. This is where this bill comes down for me. This is the most important part of this bill for me. Because in this building, we talk a lot about housing. We talk a lot about housing units. That's not what this is about. This is about home. This is about someone's home. And for a landlord to move someone out of their home, it should be more difficult than it is. It should be. Moving from your home is one of the most traumatic experiences someone can have, even when it's something you want. Even when you have found a new place that you think is better, packing up your stuff, moving it to a new place is traumatic. Now think about 30 days or even 90 days or 120 days notice. You don't want to move. Your kids are at school, you're close to your job. You like the place you have. But for some reason your landlord says, I don't want you here anymore. Doing that in the midst of changing your home, in the midst of a job, of school, God forbid someone in your family is sick, I think it's right that we move that fairness a little more in the direction of people whose homes are at stake. This bill does that. This bill does move that balance. And at the end of the day, I think it's a good move. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start off by thanking everybody in this chamber for the care and attention that you provided in yesterday's debate. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the yeoman's work of our drafter, Mr. Sweetman, who I know is listening in today. And with that, Mr. President, and with much hesitation, but it's a thing that we need to do, I also ask permission to offer a technical third reading amendment.
Senator Gonzalez, I am shocked. I can't imagine there were any mistakes with all the amendments that happened yesterday. Will you please explain the need for such an amendment?
Thank
Senator
you.
Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is with great humility and deference because during the debate yesterday, when we were discussing the definition in the language around substantial repairs and renovations, the initial amendment language referred to work that is. And we wanted to be clear and specific, and we caught it on one reference, but didn't catch it in the second reference. And so for that reason, we wanted to make sure that this bill is perfect as it moves forward. Colleagues, respectfully, I request that permission to offer this technical third reading amendment.
The question before the body is Senator Gonzalez's request for permission to offer a third reading amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? The ayes have it and permission is granted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L67?
House Bill 1098, Amendment 67.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I move L67 to House Bill 1098 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this does clarify the second place in the bill that, this clarifies that when we are speaking about work that is, we strike that language and substitute repairs or renovations that are. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on L67? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L67 to House Bill 1098. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 1 excused, the amendment is adopted. To the bill, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I came home last night and I was exhausted. I felt like I couldn't do anything else. I had worked for months at this point on this policy, and I hope that you all know what it feels like when you feel like you have done everything that you can and you're not sure if it's enough. That's this bill. But if I'm being honest, it's so much more. Because every day in this state, people are working until they are bone tired, more tired than you and I will ever be. But also, not as tired as I know some of you all have been. In my jurisdiction, in Denver, last year, we had a record. Evictions were up in Denver 9%, greater than what they had been the year before, a year that shattered the records from even during the Great Recession. Coloradans are doing everything that they can to try and stay housed. You do what you can, you pick up an extra shift, you mow the lawn, and sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes it's not enough. You get the notice, and while those of us in this august chamber would like to quibble about whether the end of a contract is an eviction or not, to a family, when they're in the middle of just trying to live life, that notice is devastating. I want to thank the good senator from Greenwood Village for reminding us. Our job in this building is to look at black letters on white paper, and sometimes we forget what it feels like. Not only is it exhausting, it's also financially devastating for both the landlord and the tenant. Landlord's got to go fix up the place, whether that is a coat of paint or whether that is substantial repairs. It is costly for a landlord to turn over a unit. But in this market, for a tenant, we're talking $6,000. First month, last month, and a deposit. at least, the likelihood that you are going to find another apartment to rent in your same community? Colleagues, have y'all looked? Have you looked at the rental prices in your areas? There are costs to this state, financial, emotional, and otherwise. I really appreciate the good senator from Parker and the good senator from Monument for speaking so powerfully about how we're all trying to work together in order to address affordability of housing in this state, because red and blue, urban and rural, we have all been hearing from our constituents who are crying out for us to meaningfully address the housing affordability crisis. It's why we brought back this bill it's why we initially brought forward this bill in 2023. At the end of the session last year, I wasn't sure whether or not I would want to join this bill again. And then I remembered that every single bill that we do, but especially this bill, is about trying to address the problems that Coloradans raise. What more could we do but try? So we dusted ourselves off, picked ourselves up again, and got to it. I want to acknowledge the good work of this team. Now council member, Serena Gonzalez Gutierrez, an original sponsor of this bill, Majority Leader Duran, the amazing senator from Pueblo, and even the good representative from Southwest Denver. Because we put in the work. We sat down with folks who are fundamentally opposed to this idea, and we sat down and listened over the course of months. I lost patience first, but my colleagues here are more patient than I am. And we listened and we moved amendments that responded to their concerns. There's a reason that the realtors got to neutral. There's a reason that the apartment association got to neutral. There's a reason that we addressed the governor's concerns. There's a reason that we addressed all of your concerns to the best that we could. It's because we tried. Because sometimes that's all you can do. I was asked, as we were debating this bill, I was asked in the good senator from Monument's office, what are you trying to do with this bill? And I'm grateful that we had the opportunity to have that conversation. Because at the end of the day, this bill is about stability. This bill says, if you do everything that is asked of you, you still might get evicted, but at least you'll know why. You'll know whether it was your fault. You'll know if it it's just because the landlord wants to use the unit for themselves. If they want to put it on the market, if they're going to demolish the unit. Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. You'll know 60-plus amendments later, I could not be prouder, 67 now, I could not be prouder of the coalition that put in the work as we now bring forward this bill for your third and final consideration. I just want to linger for one moment on 2 points that were raised in second readings yesterday and again this morning. And the first is in response to the good senator from Adams County. As you, I was so grateful for our discussions and for our conversations on this bill, because I think that we are because look, I've never lived in my car. I don't know what that life is. But I know sure as hell that I want fewer people to have to experience it. And we share that goal. I'm grateful that you tried to bring forward language to get you to yes. It was a strike below, but I appreciate it. Why doesn't just prohibiting discrimination work? Because you know what the remedy is? If you're lucky enough to find a lawyer, if you're lucky enough to go through the brain damage of having to navigate a court system and interview witnesses and go through discovery and get through a trial, the remedy is you get to go back and live in the unit. But by that time, after that amount of time has passed, we're not talking days, we're not talking weeks, we're maybe talking months. What is the probability that that unit is even available still? How is that not also of great cost if the unit is in fact held up? Held in abeyance while the discrimination court, the discrimination case is proceeding forward. How is that not also at great cost to the landlord? So I appreciate you for bringing it forward, but there's a reason why it wasn't workable in the context of this policy. The last piece that I want to linger on for just a moment is in response to the good senator from Monument. You said something that was so powerful. I wrote it down. If it costs someone something to give you something, it is coercive. And that if, and then you went on to speak incredibly eloquently about the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. And that reminded me of this book and a quote from it. This is a book called Evicted by Matthew Desmond. And powerful. He is over at Princeton, and he both writes powerfully and writes specifically about the harm that eviction causes on over 5 million Americans every year. I just want to read a very small portion in response to the arguments put forward by the leader from Monument. All of this suffering is shameful and unnecessary. Because it is unnecessary, there is hope. These problems are neither intractable nor eternal. A different kind of society is possible, and powerful solutions are within our collective reach. But those solutions depend on how we answer a single question. Do we believe that the right to a decent home is part of what it means to be American? The United States was founded on the noble idea that people have certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Each of these three unalienable rights, so essential to the American character that founders saw them as God-given, requires a stable home. Life and home are so intertwined that it is almost impossible to think about one without the other. The home offers privacy and personal security. It protects and nurtures. The ideal of liberty has always incorporated not only religious and civil freedoms, but also the right to flourish, to make a living, however one chooses, to learn and to develop new skills. A stable home allows for us to strive for self-reliance and personal expression, to seek gainful employment, and to enjoy individual freedoms. And happiness? The pursuit of happiness undeniably includes the pursuit of material well-being. Minimally, being able to secure basic necessities. It can be overwhelming to consider how much happiness has been lost, how many capabilities snuffed out by the swell of poverty in this land and our collective decision to not provide all of our citizens with a stable and decent place to live. We have affirmed provision in old age, 12 years of education, and basic nutrition to be the right of every citizen, because we have recognized that human dignity depends on the fulfillment of these fundamental human needs. And it is hard to argue that housing is not a fundamental human need. Decent, affordable housing should be a basic right for everybody in this country. The reason is simple. Without stable shelter, everything else falls apart. You've seen this in your communities. I've seen it in mine. Movement of students from one district to another. Endless traffic because folks are commuting longer and longer in order to get to their jobs. Will House Bill 1098 solve the eviction crisis? No. It will not. But it's a step. but one of many. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues, for your indulgence. I ask for an aye vote on House Bill 1098.
The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1098. Are there any no votes? Senators Van Winkle, Will, Baisley, Rich, Gardner, Minority Leader Lundin, Smallwood, Kirkmeyer, Liston, Pelton B, Pelton R, Roberts, Mullica, Janal, Zenzinger. With a vote of 19 ayes, 15 no, 0 absent, 1 excuse, House Bill 1098 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Exum, Winter, Danielson, Jaquez Lewis, Cutter, Michelson Janae, Buckner, Bridges, Coleman. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1241?
House Bill 1241 by Representative Epson, Mabry, and Senators Rodriguez concerning aligning the threshold for a comparable municipal offense to a state-level petty property crime for purposes of prohibiting a monetary condition or release.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of House Bill 1241 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1241. Are there any no votes?
Senators, Mr. Minority Leader, Gardner, Rich, Baisley, Will, Van Winkle, Pelton R, Pelton B, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Smallwood. With a vote of 23 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excuse, House Bill 1241 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Winter, Exum, Priola, Michelson Janae, Cutter. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1102?
House Bill 1102 by Representatives Degree, Kennedy, and Soper, and Senator Exum concerning requirements for individuals appointed to serve in certain independent agencies of the Judicial Department.
Senator Exum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move on third reading and final passage, House Bill 1102.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1102. Are there any no votes? Senators, Mr. Minority Leader, Liston, Roberts, Baisley, Van Winkle, Rich, Kirkmeyer, Smallwood, Pelton B, Will, Pelton R. With a vote of 23 ayes, 11 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, House Bill 1102 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Priola, Fields, Buckner, Cutter, Hendrickson, please add the President. Would the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1267?
House Bill 1267 by Representative Joda and Bacon and Senators Coleman and Hanson concerning requiring a metropolitan district engaging in covenant enforcement activities to comply with certain policies related to covenant enforcement.
Senator Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1267 on third reading.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1267. Are there any no votes? Senators Baisley, Van Winkle, Pelton R, Rich, Liston, Kirkmeyer, Smallwood. With a vote of 27 ayes, 7 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, House Bill 1267 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Bridges, Cutter, Michelson Janae, Jaquez Lewis. Will the clerk please read a title to House Bill 1058?
House Bill 1058 by Representative Kipp and Soper and Senators Basley and Priola concerning protecting the privacy of individuals' biological data and in connection therewith protecting the privacy of neural data and expanding the scope of the Colorado Privacy Act accordingly.
Senator Priola.
Morning, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1058 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1058. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 1 excused, House Bill 1058 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Mullica, Marchman, Exum, Van Winkle, Janal, Cutter, Buckner, Michelson Janae, Bridges, Gardner. Second reading of bills. Please add Senator Priola.
Mr. President,
Senator Priola.
I would like to be recorded as a co-sponsor of House Bill 1267.
Senator Priola will be recorded as a co-sponsor of House Bill 1267. Senator Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order second reading of bills consent calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of General Order second reading of bills consent calendar, and Senator Michelson Janae will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the General Order's second reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1277 by Representative Doherty and Holtry and Senator Gonzalez concerning the continuation of the Youth Restraint and Seclusion Working Group and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations in the 2023 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. House Bill 1257 by Representatives Caitlin McLaughlin, Senator Will, concerning the continuation of the Colorado Natural Areas Council and in connection therewith implementing the recommendation of 2023 Census Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. House Bill 1097 by Representative Taggart and Weissman, Senators Fields and Gardner concerning occupational credentialing for military families. Senate Bill 177 by Senators Mullica and Simpson, Representatives Caitlin and Story concerning the authority of Historic Colorado to dispose of its North Storage Facility. Senate Bill 178 by Senators Hendrickson and Simpson and Representatives Story and Lindsay concerning the repeal of a duplicate requirement to maintain an inventory of non-developed state-owned rural property. Senate Bill 176 by Senators Janal and Hendrickson, Representatives Epps and McLaughlin concerning updating the terminology that refers to an individual who is enrolled in the State Medical Assistance Program.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for the passage of all the bills on the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar, which include House Bill 1277, House Bill 1257, House Bill 1097, Senate Bill 177 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Report, Senate Bill 178 and Senate Bill 176 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Report.
Is there any discussion on the committee reports? The motion before the body is adoption of all the committee reports on the General Order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? Senator Van Winkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just point out one of the bills on the consent calendar, 1277, it's yet another effort to continue a working group indefinitely, forever, and it flies in the face of one of the great things that makes Colorado and our government work very well, which is to sunset working groups, sunset report groups, and things like that. So thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak on this bill on the consent calendar.
The motion before the body is the adoption of all of the bills on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report. Ta-da.
Senate will come to order. Senator Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had in consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 177 as amended, Senate Bill 178, Senate Bill 176 as amended, passed on second reading, order, engrossed and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1277, 1257, 1097, passed on second reading, order, revised and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Michelson Janae.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 177 is amended, 178, 176 is amended, passed in second reading, ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1277, 1257, and 1097 passed in second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Consideration of House amendments to Senate bills. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to lay over Senate Bill 35 till Wednesday, March the 27th. 22nd last week.
The motion is lay over Senate Bill 35 to 327. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Senate Bill 35 will be laid over till March 27th. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 87?
Senate Bill 87 by Senators Mullica and Will and Representative Doherty and Bradfield, concerning the provision of a facility-provided topical medication to a patient for the continuation of the patient's treatment after a surgical procedure.
Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 87.
Is there any discussion on that concurrence? Seeing none, the motion is that the Senate concur with the House amendments to Senate Bill 87. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the motion is adopted. Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 87.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the repassage of Senate Bill 87. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 87 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 99?
Senate Bill 99 by Senators Pelton R. and Marchman and Representatives Winter T. and McLaughlin concerning Public Employees Retirement Association limitations on employment after retirement for a service retiree employed by a rural school.
Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President, and please forgive me, but we ask that the Senate concur with House amendments.
Anyone like to explain that or no explanation?
Well, I will. And they're just dates. The 007 was just a date change with the reporting. And then 8 and 9 were date changes so that this bill and 1044 wouldn't be in conflict on dates. So I'd ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion that the Senate concur with House amendments to Senate Bill 99. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 34 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, the motion is adopted. Who would like to move for the repassage of your bill? Who would like to move? Senator Marchman.
Thank you. I move for the repassage of Senate Bill 99.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the repassage of Senate Bill 99. Are there any no votes? Senator Henriksen, Baisley, Van Winkle. With a vote of 31 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 99 is repassed. Co-sponsors, Senator Buckner. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill?
Nope.
Mr. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Doing my Okie crowd. Thank you, Mr. President. I move to lay over Senate Bill 138 until Wednesday, tomorrow, March 27th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 138 to Wednesday, tomorrow, March 27th. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 138 will be laid over to tomorrow. Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1010 by Representatives Jota and Senators Michelson, Janay, concerning limitation on drugs covered under an individual's health insurance policy that are administered by a provider in a setting other than a hospital and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1151 by Representative Ricks and Senators Exum, concerning prohibiting certain consumer transactions that do not include all mandatory charges.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1176 by Representative Hamrick and Senators Buckner and Fields, concerning expanding the behavioral health care continuum GAP grant program to include a commitment investment grant for a new capital construction project.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1244 by Representatives Winter, T., and Snyder, and Senators Michelson, J., and Gardner, concerning the circumstances under which an autopsy report prepared in connection with the death of a minor may be released to certain parties.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1285 by Representatives Hamrick and Senators Marchman and Gardner, concerning preventing bullying in public schools based on student physical appearance.
Education.
House Bill 1341 by Representatives Marvin and Wolford and Senators Cutter, concerning the state idling standard and in connection therewith authorizing a local government to enact a resolution or ordinance concerning idling that is at least as stringent as, but not less stringent than, the state standard.
Transportation, Energy. Message from the Governor.
March 15th. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the powers conferred upon me that the Constitution and the laws of the state of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, and submit to consideration the following member of the Groundwater Commission, effective May 2nd, 2024, for terms expiring May 1st, 2028. James M. Mobile of Denver, Colorado, to serve as representative of municipal or industrial users reappointed. Timothy Paul of Stratton, Colorado, a resident agriculturalist from Northern High Plains, resident reappointed. David Payne of Fruita, Colorado, to serve as representative of Western Slope municipal or industrial users appointed. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Agricultural and Natural Resources. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I move for the reconsideration of Senate Bill 99.
The motions for the reconsideration of Senate Bill 99. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and reconsideration is granted.
Move Senate Bill.
Okay. Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move SB 99.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the passage of SB 99. Are there any no votes? Senators Priola, Baisley, Van Winkle, Henriksen. With a vote of 30 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, and 1 excused, Senate Bill 99 is passed. Co-sponsors. Announcements. No announcements. No committees. There he is, Senator Exum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Local Government Housing will be meeting at 2 p.m. this afternoon to hear House Bill 1259. And also, Mr. President, I have requested and received permission to be excused Friday, the 29th. I'll miss you.
Awesome. Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Bill 139 has been pulled off the calendar for Senate Finance Committee today. That was our sole bill on the calendar, so Senate Finance will not be meeting this afternoon.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Business, Labor, and Technology Committee will be meeting at 2 p.m. today at the Old Supreme Court to hear, what's the bill number, Dylan? What's your bill? Senate Bill 173 regarding regulations of mortuary affairs.
Senator Liston.
Sure, why not? Thank you, Mr. President. Members, once again, just a friendly reminder that tomorrow is the nuclear caucus in room 603 of this State Services building. The CEO of Flybe Energy is flying in from Huntsville, Alabama. We will have a lunch provided, so I hope you'll attend. If you are coming, please let me know so we can have enough lunches. Don't all rush up here at once, okay?
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I am very proud to represent some of our gambling communities in Black Hawk and Central City, but there is also awareness of the problems that come with gambling, and I wanted to remind you all of that tomorrow is Problem Gambling Awareness Day at the Capitol. You all probably received a flyer. Encourage you to come down, visit with the Department of Revenue and other folks about what they're doing for those struggling with gambling addiction in our state. There will be breakfast, and it starts at 8 a.m. in the Rotunda. Thank you.
That also includes those whose March Madness bracket didn't go the way you quite thought it would. Any other announcements? Mr. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, March 27th, 2024.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, March 27th.